This video will focus on map layout basics. Now, here we have sort of a finished product when it comes to the intent of representing Canadian population, both for cities and provinces. Various methods were used to represent the data, various color schemes, and also changes in the size of the labeling, of course, to indicate hierarchy. So we got a good product here. And it's time now to add in cartographic elements and make it a final cartographic product. When you hear final cartographic product, what's meant is that the map will be able to stand alone. It'll have everything it needs to be shared with the rest of the world. There is no guesswork when it comes to what it is, and also the support elements are going to be there. So now, in order to get to layout view, there's two ways that can be done. Number one, going over to view, and there you see layout view. Or the second way is there's a button you see in the lower left hand side of the screen here called layout view. Click on it. Welcome to layout view. And in layout view, this is where you're going to be able to load up all sorts of things that'll make a final map, cartographic map product. And please take the time to explore ArcMap, because what's going to be shown in this video is just the very fundamental ways of putting the map together. There is a lot of good stuff in here when it comes to cartography. Now, for starters, when you look at the orientation of the page here, it makes sense. This is a landscape layout versus, say, portrait. So landscape is going to work out good. However, if you had a map graphic, say for instance like the country of Chile, and portrait, standard sort of 8.5 by 11 page orientation sort of a layout, if that is better, then all you have to do is go over to File and go to Page and Print Setup and just simply select Portrait. So just so you know, when it comes to the orientation of the page, you have control over that. Now, this is the data frame in which Canada rests in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it, and I'm going to pull it out just to the edge of the layout view's neat line. Like so. And by the way, there are different ways of approaching this. This is just a quick and easy way of doing it. There we go. There. Now we can start manipulating the country and making it bigger and smaller. When you do this, if in your final print, if you lose any of the outside, by the way, this will act as a border. That means that it was just a little bit too far over, like so. So all you have to do is just come in and just simply move it a little bit. Now, you'll see that there was a new toolbar that also was brought here into the environment. And here we have the layout toolbar. A lot of good stuff in there that you can work with. And so that is, I show that to you just so you know you do have additional tools. But for the sake of creating just a very simple map, we're going to leave this out of the picture for this video and use the tools that you're familiar with. Here we have the toolbar. So the map graphic has to be larger. How do we do that? Well, how would you do it in data view? Click Zoom In tool. Da-da. And the next thing you know, Canada, rightly so, is made large. There you go, Canada. I did justice to you. Okay, there. Now, please try to keep the map graphic or the labels from touching the border. And next thing we're going to be adding, oh, by the way, one other thing too is when it comes to how far up and down on the page, let's see if let me see if I did something like this, what would happen? Well, when it comes to the title, well, now there's not a lot of balance here. You can't put the title at the very top. Or if I put it down here too low, like that, uh-oh, now you got way too much white space here. So try to play the game of balance. Balance rules when it comes to cartography. Okay, be a master of balance. That's actually a pretty nice place for the graphic. And common sense is your #1 weapon when it comes to weapon, I'm sorry, your number one tool when it comes to developing a map. Now, when it comes to the title, you'll see that in the menu, you now have a new option here called Insert. And we'll go over to the title. Now, what's a good title for this map? Well, how it's about Canadian cities and provinces populations, comma, 1991. At least I like it. There we go. And I'm going to drag it down here just a little bit. Now, this is a nice title. The reason being is it identifies the geographic area, identifies the theme of the map, and also the year in which the data was generated. So it is a very what a wonderful title that was just created. So proud of it. And when it comes to the size of the title, you do have some more space here. But be careful with the title. Right now, this one it's fine, the size of this title. It's not challenging the map graphic, and it really is something that'll grab your eye. The second thing that'll grab your eye when you look at the layout view here. So that's good. And if you want to make it larger, there's no law against it, but just please don't make it into a newspaper headline. That's not the intent. Now, the next thing we're going to do is, oh, by the way, back to this eyesore right here, cities. Look at this, -99. Okay, -99 identifying that for some reason the data wasn't collected. Now, that should be resolved. If I right-click on cities and I go to properties, and here we see the symbology tab is highlighted, -99. Let's make a judgment call that at least in the areas that are represented, let's just say that one human being is there. Okay, we're gonna make a leap of faith. Okay, and I'm gonna change this to 1, and now it's 1 to 29,262. And if, well, again, that was a judgment call, but much better to have 1 than a -99, because again, the general public doesn't really know what to do with that. So going back to adding map elements, insert, legend. Now you'll see that cities and province are here, and roads hasn't been brought in because that was not selected. If you wanted to have several different columns, especially if you have a lot of additional space at the bottom that's more east-west orientated, it's fine to create additional columns. Judgment call. Just look and ask yourself, is the data the legend data represented better with an up-down orientation or more of a left-right orientation? So let's just go with the defaults here for now. And if you want to call the legend, that's fine. Usually I don't, but okay, let's just go with the defaults. Ta-da! And here you got it. Legend, and you'll see the cities, the layer, and then you see the field here, and then province and population 1991. It, by the way, using automation, this is fine, but you know, pop 1991, and then having population here, that's kind of redundant considering the title has it here too. So, if you wanted to modify the legend, all you have to do is go to properties. Gee, look at it. You know, the more we just click on something, you see again these intuitive things coming back. Now, under legend properties, there is a tab here called items. If you click select all, what that lets you do is then when you click this option here called style, you've got a whole bunch of legend styles that you can work with. And the one that I like to work with is this one right here. It says layer name and label on the side. So I click it, say OK, and OK, and look at that. Now I have something that fits rather nicely in this wedged-in area right here, right next to British Columbia. Now, still just a little big, so I'm going to take it down. Now, look at that. That is a nice fit right there. Okay, the legend fits in just nicely. However, though, if we had a map graphic where there's more space left and right, Okay, then add maybe 2 columns, so that way it would move across this way. Now the next map element that we're going to go for is the north arrow. And please don't put some work of art in as a north arrow. North arrow should be like the boring neighbor that lives down the street, okay? Rarely noticed, and don't ask me why I use that as an example, but I guess what I'm trying to say is this. Keep it simple. And I'm going to click on this one right here. And I'm going to pull it down here. Okay, it looks kind of nice. And moving on, inserting scale bar. And you've got a lot of scales here. Now, by the way, right now in this example here, you see miles. That works out well. Just make sure, please, that you have units that are reasonable. Miles, kilometers, you name it. And if you have some bizarre units of measure that you say, I just don't know what these are, well, then what you would do is you would have gone to properties and you could have adjusted it right here. But for now, miles looks pretty good. I click on miles. There we go. There. And by the way, now I'm playing a game of balance. When it comes to balancing out all the elements, no, don't do that. Just trying to, as if everybody, that there's like a smiley face of different map elements that seem like they balanced out. And also, general rule, midway and below, okay? Title, sure, you can put that on the top, no problem. But everything else, please, halfway from the page and below, try to nest them down here. Now, the last thing we want to add, if we go to Insert and go to Text, we can create a citation. And by the way, one thing I like to do when this text box comes up is I just put a few letters in there and hit Return. That lets me move it out of the way because I like to see what I'm doing. Now let me double click on this. Now what are we going to put into the text? Well, I'm going to give myself credit for what just was created. And today's date. And also data source. Now, data source is important because if you create data and you use somebody else's data and you give them no credit, that is not good in the eyes of the law. And so I'm going to give our friends at ESRI credit for the data that was created here. Very good. And then I'm going to click OK. And you want it to be down in sort of the lower right hand side is a very good place. But this, of all the elements, everybody, the citation should be something to where people should have to pretty much squint their eyes and say, oh, who created this and stuff. And it's just there if people need to know this stuff. And I'm going to move this around just a little bit more. Stop doing that. Like so. And by the way, use your artistic side. If you say, hey, by the way, I would want to put the north arrow here or whatever, that sure, wonderful, go for it. So now we have a final map layout, and I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Print Preview. Let's see what we got here. Well, that isn't going to work. Check that out. Going to close this down. I'm going to go to File, and going to go over to Page and Print Setup and switch it over to Landscape Orientation. And now going to go to File, Page and Print, or sorry, Print Preview. Okay, much better, much better. By the way, okay, I'm seeing right now that St. John's is touching the neat line, and that might be an issue. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just take Canada and make it just a little bit smaller, like that. Like so. And there you go. Okay, now, when you create a map and you want to print it off, of course you know how to print, that's obvious. However, though, you could of course save the project, or if you want to, you can go to Export the Map, and then from here, if you wanted to, you can call it, make it a JPEG or whatever, bitmap. And maybe I'll just call this Canada 1991, something like that. And now you have a map graphic of your final cartographic product. Or again, you can go to File, and you can save as, and you save the whole project. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is a basic map.